Hey everyone, so it's Hearth and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be another reaction video. This time I'm reacting to Buzzfeed in their new video, We Joined a Witch Coven. Now from the second that Buzzfeed Unsolved dropped this video on their YouTube channel, I was getting DMs on Discord and on Instagram asking me to react to it. And that's probably because I do a lot of reactions on this channel regarding witchcraft content made by non-witchcraft practitioners, and also I've reacted to a Buzzfeed video on witchcraft in the past. It was actually one of, if not my first ever reaction video. I think it actually might have been my first ever video. That's really interesting. I completely forgot about that. I will link it up here if any of you are interested in seeing that video, which is probably about 2 years old now. Maybe? I'm not quite sure. But in that video, they were interacting with witches and learning about witchcraft. This video is all about joining a witch coven, so I'm going to be really interested to see how the videos differ, whether they touch on similar topics, or whether they are completely different in their style. Now, I have not watched this video. I have no idea what's going to be in it, other than the few little bits of information that I have been given by my subscribers, the people who contacted me via DM, where they mentioned that they went to the same witchcraft shop, the Green Man in California, and that they interacted with some of the same people. So I'm going to be really interested to see if it's just a recent redo of that original video. So maybe we'll see different information, more information, maybe build on what they've already talked about. I'll be really interested to see, because a lot of people had some really strong opinions on the last Buzzfeed witchcraft video. So let's have a look at this one, see what they're doing, see what they're talking about, and let's see if it's decent information. But before we get started, I feel the need to touch on who I am and what I do here on this channel. Hello, my name is Hearth. I am a witchcraft practitioner and have been for over a decade now. And on YouTube, my main job is to talk about witchcraft and to share information about it for people who do want to learn more about it and potentially practice it for themselves. And quite a large part of my job is dispelling misinformation, information that has been gathered from inaccurate sources or books, movies, TV shows, and the like, things that have the potential to hinder your magical practice if you do choose to pursue that path in life. Now, when it comes to these reaction videos, I never intend any harm on the people in the video or the people making the video. My main job is to watch the video and add extra context where it's necessary from another magical practitioner, or to dispel any misconceptions that might be found within the video that aren't necessarily touched on by the end of their edit, or by the end of what is probably going to be a relatively short video. When it comes to witchcraft, we are ever learning, and you can't learn everything that you need to know from a really short video, so my goal is to add any extra information where necessary so that you can broaden your understanding on the topic and maybe find new avenues to research down that will help expand your magical practice. Now, as always, I never put the full original video in my video, so if you would like to see the Buzzfeed video, I will link it in the description box, and I would thoroughly recommend that you check it out and support them, because obviously they are the people that have put the hard work into editing and creating this video. I am simply going to be adding extra information to it. So if you do want to see the base video, it's linked in the description box, and I would always recommend doing that just to have a little bit of extra context to what I'm talking about. So with that all being said, I am going to shuffle over here so that I can stick the video up here so you know what I'm talking about. Otherwise, this is going to get really confusing. And let's see what Buzzfeed Unsolved has to say about witchcraft and witch covens.
What do you all know about witches? When you think of a witch, tell me what you think of.
I'm thinking Anya Taylor-Joy. I'm thinking, Blair Witch. I'm thinking, I'm thinking Suspiria.
Witches is, I think, a group of women that do juices and magic works to make things happen.
Honestly, I don't even think so much about like the classic Wizard of Oz type like green face thing anymore. I think of a more kind of LA bougie, almost trendy, like crystals.
Well, guess what? We're joining a witch coven today.
Damn.
Okay, so that was different. I'm not sure if it's good different or bad different at the minute, it's just different. Usually when they start these videos, they give a stereotypical description of what witchcraft is to them. And usually it's an elderly woman with green skin and warts cackling over a bubbling cauldron. And this time it's juicing, trendy, crystal LA witches, which is very different than what I was expecting. Now, it does go to show that as a collective, the witchcraft community has progressed somewhat in convincing the general public that we are not all cackling, green-skinned people over a bubbling cauldron, which is good because the Hollywood stereotype is quite damaging to witchcraft collectively. There's a lot of stigma associated with the term that has not been shaken. However, I feel like this has gone from one extreme to the other. We've gone from evil, elderly women cackling over stoves to trendy, hip, juicing LA witchcraft. Now, they are polar opposites, and neither stereotype is particularly accurate. Now, of course, there are witches who do live the LA lifestyle and who juice and who use crystals and who also practice witchcraft, and they are perfectly valid in their practice. But it's important to note here that not all witches are going to be like that, and having that as the stereotype isn't probably going to help the community much in understanding the diversity that goes behind it. But for those of you who don't know witchcraft or witches particularly well, witchcraft is a magical practice, and the people who practice witchcraft often refer to themselves as witches. Now, the term witch is gender neutral. You can be a man and call yourself a witch, you can be a woman and call yourself a witch, you can be non-binary and call yourself a witch. It's just a gender neutral term. And there are witches found all over the world from a whole range of different cultures and traditions and backgrounds, and they're all going to practice things slightly differently. Some of them are going to follow very specific traditions, others are going to be more eclectic in nature. And so I don't know how I feel about trendy LA juicing and crystal being the buzzwords for witchcraft now. It's kind of alarming because we've taken like a complete pole of opposite stance now. Like, it's gone from being like evil and menacing to being pretty and urban outfitters and juicing and soul cycle and that kind of thing. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I'm not annoyed. I'm just slightly disappointed that we went from one extreme to the other. But then I do think it's also important to remember here that Buzzfeed Unsolved is based in LA, I believe. So when you have a collection of people filming a video from LA who've experienced LA, they're going to have LA at the forefront of their mind, whereas I think if I were to go into London and I were to ask someone about what witchcraft is to them, they're not likely to say LA, juicing, and all of that stuff. So I'm just really curious about where this is going, because that was not what I expected in the slightest. And I'm not sure if it's a progress in the right direction. Do you think that that's a progress in the right direction? Let me know, because obviously there are witches who do practice that, who are very valid. So at least they have one aspect of witchcraft being based in reality rather than basing it on a Hollywood stereotype. So I think that's probably a step in the right direction.
Damn!
Let's go.
We're going to challenge our ideas, varied, it appears, of what a witch is and what a witch does. And you know what? I have it on good authority that we're going to partake in a ritual today.
Nice.
Now, I'm very excited. I don't know what type of ritual this is, but there is a coworker of ours at Buzzfeed who I'm not the biggest fan of. He's someone who I've opened the door for him several times, and he walks right through it without saying thank you.
Here.
I'm hoping that maybe this ritual,
Oh, maybe we can get
You're
back.
gonna cast a spell.
maybe we
yeah.
can do something to
Yeah,
it.
you got vindictive real quick with it.
And just like that,
So that is very vindictive very, very quickly. And usually you'll find that when we talk or when people talk about witchcraft, if they aren't part of that tradition themselves, they often jump to one of two conclusions, or sometimes three. They'll either want a spell for love, a spell for money, or a spell that's for vengeance. Usually those are the three options that people immediately go to. We've seen love spells before, we've seen money spells before, But to jump straight to essentially what would be a curse or a hex, depending on the severity of it, for someone who doesn't say thank you when you open the door for them, that's extreme. Like, most practitioners would not immediately go down that route. Now, many practitioners will both curse and cure. They will both undertake positive magic and negative magic. Now, of course, this doesn't apply to everyone. Where you fall on the positive to negative magic debate is more of a sliding spectrum, and different practitioners are going to place themselves in different areas along that scale. I personally am happy to do either, but I will always make sure that negative magic is the last resort. I'm not going to jump to it first. And in most cases, when it comes to witchcraft and magical results, you're probably going to want to try mundane means first. If you can solve a problem with a conversation, you're much better off doing that than spending 3 days planning a ritual that takes a month to get round to the right moon phase for, to then spend 4 hours undertaking the ritual to then wait 30 days for the result, when you could have just had a conversation with them. And in many cases, a lot of problems like this can be solved super easily with a conversation. You know, if you've got a coworker that doesn't say thank you when you go through a door, a quick conversation, and it could go one or two ways. Either they go, screw you, I'm going to keep doing me, and they don't change their ways. Or you maybe bring to light something that they never realized they were doing or not doing, and they solve it themselves by having that realization that it's something that they need to be doing. Most practitioners do not jump to cursing. Actually, most practitioners don't jump to magical practice as a first resort anyway. They'll always try the mundane means first before they go to the magical.
The Green Man Store, a shop in North Hollywood. On top of providing magic and apothecary needs, it also serves the Los Angeles magic using community with teachings, rituals, events, and the ability to buy one's magical wares. To enlighten ourselves, we sat down with Carrie, one of the store's co-owners and the Dame Witch Mother and High Priestess of the Ked tradition, and Griffin, the store's manager and the Witch Father of the Ked tradition. So you both are witches? Is that the...
Yes, that is how we would identify.
Are you technically a warlock?
God, no. That is a very bad word.
Is it?
Yes.
In general, in the community, the term warlock has been used for many years to represent somebody who's an oathbreaker, somebody who turns on their own.
Am I in trouble for having said that?
No.
Okay, great.
So this is the thing I really like about particularly Griffin. Now, Griffin has been spoken to by many videos in the past, and they're very open-minded. They're very happy to have that conversation. And I think a lot of people within the witchcraft community are, you know, if someone says to me, you know, is warlock a bad word? I'm never going to like reprimand someone for just asking that question. I know that some people within the community would reprimand you for asking that question, but a question is simply someone being curious. So I like the fact that they've already started this very open discussion of like, it's not bad that you've asked, you know, you're learning by asking that question. Now, based on what's been said so far, it appears that both of these individuals are members of a very particular witchcraft tradition. Now, was it called the Ked tradition? I'm not quite sure. I'm going to have to double check that. Now, when it comes to witchcraft traditions, each tradition and each form of the practice is going to have its own unique aspects. And because I am not myself a practitioner of this particular tradition, I am not going to know all of the ins and outs of it. So I'm only going to be able to talk about the way this tradition and these individuals undertake practices in relation to my own, which is going to be different to, say, someone else's practice. So it's just important to bear that in mind. No one person is right. It's more that we all follow slightly different traditions. Now, when it comes to the term warlock, it is used to describe an oathbreaker. However, in the past 5-10 years, I've seen quite a lot of people actually refer to themselves as warlocks as a way of reclaiming the word. Much as a witch throughout history, particularly in Britain, was used to refer to a person believed to be casting negative spells or curses on the community. It was actually quite unusual for anyone to self-identify as a witch, particularly through the witch trial period. They usually referred to themselves as something else, which was usually culturally significant. We've reclaimed the term witch to mean something different now than it maybe was perceived historically. And it appears that the term warlock is going through its own kind of revival. I've known a lot of people who are starting to refer to themselves as warlocks as a way of reclaiming that term, of creating a new meaning for it. So yes, it is used to describe people who break oaths, people who often break coven-bound oaths, but I have seen a lot of people now refer to themselves as warlock as a way of reclaiming that term. So it's very much going to be an individual thing whether or not you choose to refer to yourself as a warlock, though for the most part, a lot of male identifying practitioners that I know do still refer to themselves as witches.
What is a witch?
Witch is kind of an umbrella term for people who practice the art of witchcraft. It's a word that used to have a very bad meaning. Witches were the people that did bad things to other people.
I mean, there's places in the world where witchcraft will still be seen that way, because the use of the word is for negative, harmful, baneful magic in many cultures, but that's not how it is for people in today's witchcraft community.
In regards to magic use, what is the difference between witches, Wiccans?
There's Wicca and then there's witchcraft. And some Wiccans are witches. Magic isn't something that everybody practices. I look at this as an art more than a religion. I mean, Wicca very much identifies itself as a religion, as a God-centered religion.
That's the biggest difference between what that is and what we are.
You all do not identify as Wiccan.
No, we do not identify as Wicca. There's a lot of people who, in Wicca, are working a very potent, very pure, magical, religious, spiritual movement. And without them, we wouldn't have the community that we have today.
That is so true. So Wicca is a religion, witchcraft is a magical practice. Now, the religion of Wicca really is why witchcraft is as popular and as mainstream as it is today. And as much as people today don't necessarily identify themselves as being Wiccans in the sense of the religion because they don't feel that that religion suits them, we really wouldn't see the witchcraft movement today if it wasn't for the work of Gerald Gardner and other very prevalent Wiccan followers. During the 1950s, after the Witchcraft Act in Britain was repealed, we see Gerald Gardner, among other notable Wiccan members, really pushing for Wicca to become more mainstream. They began doing TV interviews, radio interviews, really pushing the word out there. And then we started seeing it pop up more and more in America as well. And after that, it really went worldwide. And without the notable members of the Wiccan community, without Wicca, I don't think we would necessarily see witchcraft being as accepted as it is today. Now, some people wish that it wasn't so accepted because they don't like to see it as being a trend. Whereas for many people, they wouldn't have even known that witchcraft was a thing if it hadn't become a trend. So it's really interesting to see that these two individuals are not members of the Wiccan religion. I myself am also not a member of the Wiccan religion, but I'm also very grateful for the Wiccan religion, even if I'm not a part of it, because of the opportunities it has given a lot of us to learn more about both Wicca and witchcraft. I mean, without the Wicca movement, I wouldn't be here talking to you because witchcraft channels on YouTube wouldn't be popular at all. So it's just really interesting to see that. I like the acceptance and the accepting language that's going on in this video. And it's also really nice to see Buzzfeed do a video that is about witchcraft and not necessarily about Wicca, because the majority of videos that I react to call themselves witchcraft, but they're actually referring to the religion of Wicca. So hopefully we'll be seeing more witchcraft in this, because it would be really nice to see specifically witchcraft. I think that would be really interesting.
While the history of witchcraft couldn't possibly be abridged to fit this small VO segment, it's worth pointing out that some sort of folk magic has been practiced by nearly every civilization for hundreds and hundreds of years. As Christianity became dominant, those who practiced witchcraft were persecuted. This pushed practices of magic and witchcraft into the shadows. As Griffin explains, witchcraft saw a revival in the 1940s and 50s. As outdated witchcraft laws were repealed, a man named Gerald Gardner established what was called Gardnerian Wicca, which combined folk magic and earlier practices with society's new and changing values. As Griffin points out, not all witches are Wiccan, and not all Wiccans are witches or even practice magic. We also wish to make it clear that Griffin and Carrie are by no means speaking for all witches, as many different traditions and practices exist.
No, but like seriously, I am shocked at how good this video is. Like, I really enjoy Buzzfeed Unsolved and their content. I think that their content is really good and it's really well researched, and this one seems to be no different. They really have their information down. Now, one thing I do just want to add real quick that I just think is really interesting that they didn't touch on here is that when Christianity began sweeping across Europe and we see it really wiping out pre-Christian traditions, witchcraft doesn't actually disappear. Those that practice magical traditions, what we would now refer to as witchcraft, were still present within towns and especially villages throughout history. And when Christianity began to really take over and push back against those who did practice magic, you start seeing more and more aspects of Christian text appearing within folk charms. So especially written charms that we still find today in England, dating from around the 1600s to even up until the 1940s, they often contain aspects of Christianity within them. So it ultimately became incorporated into the tradition as a way to keep it alive and as a way to keep it accepted by a now Christianized society. It's honestly really, really fascinating, and in the future I would definitely like to do a video about the history of witchcraft charms and remedies in the British Isles. I would love to do that. If you would like to see that video, please let me know and I will try to formulate a script for that. But yeah, so far this video is freakishly well researched and I love it. I actually really like it. I hope it stays this good.
So what is the type of magic that you practice, or what are some of the things that you use it for?
The form of traditional witchcraft that we practice is the idea that if you're born with a certain predisposition to work the art, if you have the ability to perceive subtler spirits in the world, and you start to develop your ability to commune and to push fate with magic, then you're practicing witchcraft.
You've used the phrase pushing the hand of fate
Yeah,
a couple of times.
very
And so
cool,
are you
very
saying
cool,
like,
by
so you're saying that we do have a predetermined fate, but you're able to manipulate that course?
We see Dane fate as the divine quality of spirit that keeps harmony and life functioning in the universe. So when you push the hand of fate, you're not following the path of least resistance.
I've been doing that for 30 years.
Even people, we have free will, but if you think about it, it's like, how often are we enacting free will? We make a choice, but we make what is the obvious choice as the door opens up.
Okay, so that's really interesting. It's obviously different than, say, what I practice, because I don't practice this particular branch of witchcraft tradition. But it's a really interesting way of wording it, and it's similar to how I've heard other people word it. The way I personally describe witchcraft is that you are pushing yourself in a particular direction. Now, I don't believe that we have, say, a straight A to B route that is fate that we are following. However, when it comes to things like divination and using tarot cards, for instance, we are able to perceive what is going to happen if we continue on the path that we are already on, and we're only really able to perceive up until the point where we change course, where we make a different decision that pushes us onto a different path, which is why tarot reading is really only useful up to a certain point, because the minute we make a change, it's going to change the potential outcome, and then we would do a different reading. I perceive witchcraft to be similar to this, where the choices we make are going to vary the outcome. And when we undertake witchcraft, we are subtly changing, we are subtly shifting the path that we are on into a direction that's going to put us towards our end goal. So you're almost pushing the potential decisions, the potential things that could happen that will then set you on a path that's going to get you where you need to go, which is often why when you do one spell, if you're planning to, say, get a promotion, you might find that it causes a chain reaction of unexpected things to happen. It's not that the spell has gone wrong, it's that to get the job that you were after, we have to push ourselves onto a slightly different path that is then going to cause a domino effect of changes in our lives. Some are going to be good, some might be bad, that set us up to end where we wanted to be. And so it's interesting to see how a different person from a different tradition would word something that's similar to how I would personally describe it, just in a different way. So I think it's really interesting, and I always love hearing how other witches would describe their form of practice, because obviously it's going to vary depending on who you're talking to, and it's also going to vary depending on tradition as well. So I always find it so fascinating, and I like that form of description, the idea of pushing the hand of fate. It is very much similar to how I personally perceive witchcraft. Although for me, I find that you don't necessarily have to be born into witchcraft. There are certainly some people who are more adept at it than others. You know, not everyone is going to be able to see spirits. Not everyone is going to be really successful with energy work. I definitely think it's something that anyone can develop, but I do think that you have to have a certain predisposition to even want to practice witchcraft. You know, witchcraft is not an easy solution. It's not an easy path to go down. It takes a lot of time, a lot of research, a lot of patience, a lot of practice. So I do think that anyone can develop it. It's just not everyone is going to develop it in the same kind of time. Not everyone is going to develop it at the same stage in life. You know, so anyone can learn to practice witchcraft, but whether you have the determination, I suppose, the passion to keep pushing through and keep learning and keep developing over time is really what makes the difference, at least in my experience.
In order to push the hands of fate and commune with the spirits ourselves, we asked Jill, one of the store's co-owners and a clan member of the Coven, to show us around the store.
We're in this beautiful, beautiful space. This stuck out to me as quite a surprise.
Why would a cauldron surprise you?
So I think what I was trying to do is overcorrect possibly for what I thought I saw in the movies being stereotypical.
My mind went the same way, but with the brooms over there.
Right?
See, I thought broomsticks were also another pop culture invention associated with witches.
This actually makes so much sense when you think about it. In the car earlier, it very much seemed like they'd gone the polar opposite way, and now it makes sense. They were overcompensating because they knew that Hollywood witchcraft wasn't real because it's Hollywood and movies aren't real. And so they took every aspect of witchcraft they see in the movies and they thought, okay, well, that's in the movies, therefore that must be fake too. So they went the opposite way. And so I think a lot of people will probably go one of two ways, and I've met a lot of people who go one of two ways. Either they go down the Hollywood is real, everything must be real from a movie, or they go down the other route where they think that nothing in Hollywood is real and they completely push Hollywood away and they try to find some unique answer that's separate from Hollywood. But the reality is that Hollywood actually drew on real magical practice because inspiration has to come from everywhere, which is why I always find it so strange and quite funny when I say to someone that I'm a witch and they immediately respond with, "A witch? You do realise Harry Potter isn't real, right?" And I have to hold my tongue because the reality is that Charmed, The Craft, The Wizard of Oz, Harry Potter, all of these fantastical witchcraft-related movies all draw inspiration from pre-existing witchcraft traditions. And so I don't think I'm a witch because I watched Charmed. Instead, Charmed is the TV show it is today because it drew on real witchcraft. And people often seem to forget that, and that seems to be the case in this instance. So yes, cauldrons are used very frequently. I have a whole collection of them myself that I use for ritual use. A lot of people consider cauldrons to be a representation of the water element. Other people believe that cauldrons are associated with all elements because they can contain all aspects of life and the world. People will also consider the cauldron to be a symbol of transformation, of life, death, and rebirth, as well as for knowledge, depending on your particular tradition. So for me, because I follow Ceridwen as a deity, Ceridwen has a cauldron which is seen in her myths in the Mabinogi, which is used to represent transformation and knowledge. And different cultures will have different associations with it. You can also use cauldrons to burn incense sticks, as well as loose incense, to burn petition and spell papers, to burn herbal blends. You can use it to make potions and teas. Some people will still use cauldrons to cook in to this day. You can also use it as a scrying vessel for divination, and they're also used in ceremony and rituals as well when you're having a large gathering of multiple people. Broomsticks, also known as besoms, are also used really frequently. They're used for protection and cleansing, used to ritually sweep a space of both dust as well as unwanted and unnecessary energy. movies. They're also used as a representation of unity and of progressing to the future. So in a lot of pagan weddings, which are sometimes known as handfastings, the couple will often leap over a broomstick as a way of showing that you are stepping into your new life in unity and in unison. They're also used a lot in ceremonies to represent different elements and different aspects of life. So these two items are used really frequently alongside a lot of other very stereotypical witchcraft items that you maybe see in the movies, but they are definitely still used today. But as always, not every witch is going to choose to use them. You don't need any tools or any items to practice witchcraft, but if you do have these tools or you would like to get these tools, they can be very useful depending on what you go on to practice.
So I'm noticing a theme that can you tell me about maybe this piece here, or perhaps this fun-shaped man there?
Oh, you're talking about penises.
I am seeing no shyness around sexuality in a lot of this. Is that something that permeates through witchcraft?
No shyness about sexuality.
Oh yes.
That is, this is the Sheila Nagig, and she's actually, you will find her actually carved like underneath seats in churches when the laborers were making the church, the woodcutters and the furniture builders and the stonemasons. Christianity was an overlay, but they still had their family practices, so they'd put their little gods and, you know, and the Green Man's all over churches.
This is very true, particularly in the UK, in old churches. So I don't mean churches from like the 1900s, I mean churches that were built in like the 1600s, which are quite common actually in the UK. You will see everything from representations of green men and goddess symbols, god symbols. You'll even see legends of mermaids being carved into the woodwork on the benches and the pews and just woodwork in the buildings itself. You will see witch marks in churches which were carved to protect people or the church from negative magic and to protect them from negative spirits. In old buildings, especially buildings that were built during the Tudor period, you'll often see what are known as witch marks. They're also seen as daisy wheels. They'll often be carved into the masonry or into woodwork to act as a protection against spirits, especially above fireplaces and other liminal spaces. So especially in the UK and likely elsewhere as well, although Christianity overlaid the belief systems of the people that were there before, it doesn't actually erase them, it simply alters them slightly. So the superstitions among the general public were still there even when Christianity became very popular and was the modern religion of the time. So even in Christian buildings like churches, chapels, especially chapels in private houses, you'll often see a lot of witchcraft symbols or witchcraft protective symbols, as well as figures like the Green Man appearing, because the people that were working on the buildings, they were not in the same circles as the people that were paying for the building to be built. And the general public of the UK especially still had a lot of superstitions, even up until the 19th century, that maybe today we would laugh at, but it was just a part of life, and they incorporated that into everything that they did, and they did that especially with buildings and anything that might have needed further protection. So it's just really interesting when you get into the history of witchcraft, especially among standard everyday people. It gets added into every aspect of life, even in areas where you maybe wouldn't expect it.
Oh my goodness. Oh. This is
I'm honestly a little intimidated.
I'm nervous now.
It's the lighting, the cauldron, the robes. It's definitely.
It's just big enough to get bits of you in. We'd have to chop you up first, you know.
I'm nervous laughing.
We're not going to do that tonight. We're just going to do a working. It's working to spellcrafting, and we're just going to basically do one of the earliest forms of traditional witchcraft spells, which is a witch's ladder. I've got 3 different pieces of cord that I'm going to work with, only one of them. So it really depends on what we're going to do a working for. And I wanted to throw that out to you and ask you. We could, for example, do a cursing on all people that don't say thank you when you hold the door.
Thank you. That's what I like to hear. But hey, you know what? We won't. I've learned better, thanks to you. Good. We don't open the door.
I do see, feel like I see fire implements. Is fire involved?
Yes. Fire is a portal. We call it the flaming door.
Oh, that's cool.
I like
That's nice. That's
That
good
sounds like a
band name.
bar.
Basically what I'm doing is I'm creating a spell of spirits, of 9 sequential spirits, that then, once it is released, it will set about changing the quality of spirit for whatever it's tasked to. And then that will be the foundation of a new movement into something else. It will manifest itself in the world from the spirit out.
So yeah, this is a really interesting working. Witches' ladders are really traditional. I have done witches' ladders before. I really enjoy working with them. I actually used to have one hanging up here. If you remember my old backdrop, it used to be like right here. And they are a form of knot magic. Now, knot magic is a really traditional form. Probably the most well-known form of knot magic was known as knotting the wind. And it was done by witches, which were often referred to as peddlers or wise folk on the coasts of England, but also probably elsewhere. They would knot in or breathe life into a knot in a piece of cord as they were creating it, and they would tighten it. And they would do that often 3 times, sometimes 4 times, sometimes 9 times, depending on which county they were a part of. And each knot would secure inside it breath or wind. And as it's sealed, you trap that wind inside that knot. These were often then sold or given to sailors or fishermen who needed the support of a positive wind behind them to get them going or to get them safely from one place to another. And when they needed assistance from the weather, they would undo one of the knots, and it was said to release the energy within that knot, and it would then bring about a shift in the weather which would push them safely to their destination. And they would do this on the 3 knots, the 9 knots, the 4 knots, whatever it was, to really direct them towards their goals. Now, knot magic doesn't have to be used solely in this way, and commonly online you will see those chants that are 1 knot, 2 knot, and each time you do a knot, you are visualizing your intention. You're often blowing your breath fused with your energy and your intention through the knot that you've created as you tighten it tight. And then when you need to, you would undo the knots. Now, in England in particular, I remember being taught this when I was a child. It's really traditional that if you need to remember something, you think of what you need to remember and you get a handkerchief, like a fabric tissue essentially. And on the corners of the handkerchief, if you desperately needed to remember something, you would think of what you needed to remember, you would tie a knot, and before you tightened it, you would breathe through the knot and you would tighten it. And it said that if you needed to remember something, you would secure the memory inside the knot. And then once you remembered it, you could untie the knot, release that energy, and it would be gone because you remembered it anyway. But if you needed help with remembering what it is that you'd forgotten, you could undo the knot, release the energy that was in the knot, and you would then remember what it was that you breathed in to remember at a later date. So knot magic has been seen all the way up until today. It's really popular. A witch's ladder follows this similar technique. Often though, you will add in ladder runs, often with feathers or pieces of wood, depending on what you are intending on doing. That's something that you'll often see done today. Or you can just create the runs by creating knots in a long length of cord. You can use 1 piece of cord, you can use multiple pieces of cord, you can change the color of the cord depending on what it is that you needed. So for instance, you wanted confidence in public speaking for your job. You might use purple to represent power and that inner spiritual confidence that you needed. You might then use orange to represent confidence, passion, and creativity in creating the speech. You might then use green to represent your work, and you might plait them all together and knot them in this way to create a unique witch's ladder that suits what it is that you need. I am going to stop talking now because I could go on and on about witch's ladders, but I love the use of this style of practice, and I'm so happy that we get to see it in this video.
So then the question is, what am I doing a spellcrafting for?
Well, if this show could work.
Let's do that, yes. To make this video a success. Tell the spirits that the flagship show Unsolved is ending, and so we need help.
The prosperity of this show. Okay. Just a little bit of room.
Oh, please.
Just a little bit. Yeah, so you're good there. We just needed you a little bit further. We've already worked the space somewhat, so the space is already sacred temple for us. Light and dark are turning, luck be in the burning. Light and dark are turning, luck be in the burning. Light and dark are turning, luck be in the burning. Winds blow round and round and round you go. Winds blow round and round and round you go. Winds blow round and round and round you go. By my witch's breath, and by this knot of one, before the gods, this spell is begun. By my witch's breath, and by the knot of four, let the work be done and cast through the flaming door. By my witch's breath, by the knot of 9, this spell is mine. I weave, I bind, this spell be 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 mine. Oh, that's accepted. Oh, yeah, babe.
Okay, so this one was really interesting. Now, I know straight off a lot of people are going to laugh at the repetition, and a lot of people don't like rhyming, but in this instance, it does make sense. A lot of people will rhyme during this particular style of working, especially if they are wanting to connect with spirits, because it does allow us to enter into a trance-like state. The repetition of the same rhythmic phrase over and over and over again does allow us to really easily drop into trance, which is super useful for this style of working. Now, they did this slightly differently than a lot of knot magic workings are done. They actually burn the knot after it's been finished. Now, this is definitely a valid way of doing it, and it has its reasons. As is mentioned here, they are using the fire to be the releasing agent. So just like with sigils, you can charge a sigil with your intention as you are creating it, and then carry it around with you to release that energy over time. You can do that with knot magic, where you charge and you seal these knots and you carry it around to manifest that passively over time. Or, just like with sigils, you can release it by its destruction, especially with the destructive power of fire. During certain moon phases, particularly the waxing and the full moon phase, are fantastic for working fire in this way, as a doorway, as an opening to the spiritual plane. The belief being that if you burn something, you destroy it, which releases the energy all in one go, which then travels with the smoke and with the steam and with the fire into the spiritual planes to work astrally, which then trickles over into the physical plane. It's a really old belief system, and it works so well. Now, it isn't the only way you can do it. You can still carry around witches' ladders and have them work passively over time, which is really good if you want something like protection. But when it comes to something like this, you want it to be fast acting, you want it to be powerful, and you really want it to be all in one go. And so you seal your energy into essentially a vessel in the form of every single one of the 9 knots, 9 being the traditional number for more modern witches' ladders. They don't have to be 9, but it is really popular, and 9 is a really powerful number in numerology. And then once you've sealed your energy and your intention into those 9 knots, you then burn it, you release it all in one go, and you release it into the spiritual, the astral, and then it can trickle over into the lives of the people that you've done that working for in the physical. It's so fascinating. I love this style of working, and it's especially good in a Coven environment, because what you've got is you've got 3 people working it. I actually prefer the fact that they didn't add in the others, because if you are having 3 practitioners and 2 or 3 non-practitioners in that working, you're essentially diluting the energy that you're putting into it, because those 3 practitioners are then pulling the weight of the 3 non-practitioners in that space, and you're essentially dividing the energy up across the people, which makes it a lot harder to do a successful working. And also, if you have non-practitioners within that space, they don't know what they're doing, they don't know how to maintain that chant, to maintain that space, and so the energy can drop. which then reduces the success of that working, which is one of the problems that a lot of these videos have, is that they want to get the people involved, which is really fun and it's really interesting, but it often leads to a non-successful working because that energy hasn't been balanced across everyone in the group. It's dropped, it's dipped, and so the energy doesn't manifest. So in this working, one practitioner is doing the spell, the others are maintaining the raised energy within that space. Because oftentimes when you're doing workings like this, you can't maintain that chanting trance-like energy because you're the one that's focusing on the working. So by having two other practitioners in the space, they can help maintain that energy, raise more energy that the one that's doing the working can then funnel into the working. Essentially, one person's doing the working, but three people are raising the energy, which leads to a lot of very powerful workings. And this is how most of my Coven experience has gone, this style of everyone's collectively raising that energy, but one person is doing it. The phrase too many cooks comes to mind here. If you are having too many individual members of a coven or a group trying to do a working all at once, if any of them have conflicting or not quite aligning energies and intentions, it can throw the entire working off. But if everyone is raising that energy for the one person to do it, the one person that's been selected by the group to do it, that's one person doing it with the energy of 3, 5, 12, 13 different people, which can create a really powerful working that's designed to assist the lives of everyone collectively, but no one is interfering negatively with that energy because only one person is directing it and adding that intention into it. Everyone else is just raising it. So I love this style of working. The one thing I will say, if you are planning on doing anything like this at home, please make sure that you have fire extinguishers, or even better, have fire extinguishers and be outside, because obviously a fire in a cauldron like this has the potential to be exceptionally dangerous. This is obviously done in a controlled way, in a room that is specifically designed to be used for these purposes, and I would assume, or at least I would hope, that they would have the safety equipment on hand that they would need if this did go wrong. The other bonus with cauldrons is you can put the lid on it, and when you put the lid on it, you block out the oxygen and the fire dies. But if you're going to be doing this, please make sure that you always have safety equipment on hand, because I have seen too many people catching their robes on fire, catching knotwork on fire, and it's not a pretty sight. Hair, do not catch your hair on fire. That's really bad, but generally, I really, really like this. One thing I will point out before we continue is that the garb that they are wearing, the cloak with the bare feet. Now, this is not a requirement when it comes to practicing witchcraft, not at all, but it can be really useful. Oftentimes, having bare feet on the ground, the earth, the floor, whatever it might be, is a great way of really gathering ourselves and connecting us with that space directly, because oftentimes if we're wearing socks or shoes, we're not really connected to the place that we are in. And then the use of the robes is often used as a way of separating this magical act from our mundane day-to-day lives. It's not an essential, it's not a necessity, but it is quite a useful way of separating material goods, material life, away from spiritual practice, which is why a lot of covens will do it. And it's also a good way of making everyone even and equal. Some people within a coven may be very rich, some people may be very poor, some people may be struggling, some people may be not. And so when everyone is wearing the same clothing, no shoes, a simple robe, it makes everyone suddenly become spiritual equals. It doesn't matter what your monetary value is, everyone becomes spiritual equals within that space, and no one can be perceived as being any more significant than anyone else because everyone's wearing the same thing. Okay, continuing, I am talking so darn much.
So, that was something.
Yeah.
That was lovely.
It was super cool, and also coming from a good place, like there was so much heart in it, but it was a lot more earnest than I was anticipating maybe.
Those were great, lovely people who I want to hang out with more often, even outside of Witchcraft.
Well, you will all have to come back because we have a show now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get a curse, but we'll get that done another time.
Overall, as an experiment in getting myself out of my comfort zone and into groups that I'm maybe not the most comfortable with, I think that was a great success.
You know, going into this, my mind was obviously riddled with a lot of preconceived notions, stereotypes about witches, and I was looking forward to trying to see how they'd be kind of, shattered. And today definitely delivered on that.
Parts of it seemed scary, but overall it just seemed kind of nice.
Do I believe the working will actually result in anything? That I don't know. But I can say that I'm very grateful that I got to have the opportunity to do that, and with some really cool witches.
I think they were wonderful people, and I could see the humanity behind what it is they do. So, yeah, we made some new friends. And they're witches.
So that was probably my favorite video that I have ever reacted to. And I am not sure how to feel about that. That was so good. And I think that they came away from it with even more of an understanding of what it is. And I mean, just going into it, it was honourable in a way, bear with me on this one, it was honourable in a way that they came in and they had pushed away the Hollywood stereotypes so far that they ended up with a stereotype of juicing, crystals, LA, and trendy. However, the fact that they went into it with the purposeful goal of finding out more, and even before they went in, they had that realization that witchcraft isn't the same in the movies as it is in real life, is a real step in the right direction, and they came away from it with so much good information. And I would love to see the uncut version of that. Like, I want to see the full conversations, I want to see the full interactions, the full ritual, everything, because they did that in probably the most tasteful way I have seen anyone talk about witchcraft from outside the witchcraft community. Usually there's a lot of scary music and cutscenes to horror movies or to The Wizard of Oz and references and making funny jokes about witchcraft, and essentially they start them by mocking witchcraft, and then by the end they have this miraculous conclusion. Whereas this one was very authentic in that they went at it knowing that it's significant, knowing that it's real for people, knowing that it's a real tradition, not just plain make-believe. And that really shows in the way that it's been edited, to the point where I wish it was longer. That was only 16 minutes. I want to see everything. I want to see the entirety of conversations, because I reckon there was so much good stuff in there, so much authentic, real practice, real information that people would love to hear about. And I think they should definitely, if they have it, release more from that, because that was amazing. I can't even fathom how good that was. The use of not magic and the use of actual practice that's very practical, and individuals can do it. You don't have to be in a coven to do that style of not magic. You can do that as an individual solitary practitioner. You can do it with one person, two people, you can do it in a large group, you can do it in a large coven setting. Each individual person can do it within a coven setting. It's just such a versatile way of doing it. It's just such a versatile practice, and they didn't put in mocking music or anything like that, and I'm actually really, really stunned. So please, if you've watched this video and you haven't seen the original, please go and give it some love, because this is probably the best video I have ever seen of a group of people going to learn about witchcraft from witchcraft practitioners in this way, this style of video. I have never seen a better one, and I am definitely going to go to their channel and like it, because I already do enjoy the Buzzfeed Unsolved content, because they put so much time and effort into the research, and you can 100% see that. They cut to a little bit about witchcraft history and a little bit about how witchcraft has changed over time, and just the amount of information that's gone into that beforehand. They've not gone in trying to make a joke out of this video. They've truly gone to see what witchcraft is about from a very open-minded perspective, and the editing matched that. And usually the editing does not match up with their end conclusion. So this was really refreshing. I'm going to stop talking now. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really enjoyed filming it. I hope that you enjoyed watching it. I hope that you got a little bit of extra information out of it from all of my talking, because I've spent the last 2 hours talking about a 16-minute long video. I might have talked for a little bit too long. There might end up being 2 versions of this. I might post the long, full version on my Patreon and then the shorter, more concise version on YouTube, so you don't end up with a 2-hour-long video. But if you did like it, please give it a like. It really shows me that you like the content. Do you have anything that you want to add to what I've said in this video? Feel free to put it down in the comment section. If you do enjoy the magical content on this channel or in this video, feel free to hit subscribe. I try my best to post magical content every single week. Wow, that is a mouthful. I also have a folklore podcast called Through the Blackthorn Arch. It's available on YouTube, and it's also available on Spotify and Anchor and Google and all of the other most of the other podcast platforms if you would like to follow that as well. And lastly, I want to say a massive thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. Some of your names will be on the end screen in just a moment, and I want to just thank all of you for your support, and hopefully I will finish editing the long version so that I can put it on there. That being said, I hope you're all staying safe. I hope you have a marvelous magical day. Go and like the original Buzzfeed video. They really deserve for this to do well because this was so well done. And I'll hopefully see you in another video. Bye! Good day, folks. It is currently, if I can show you, 9:09 p.m. Why I'm deciding to film this video at 9 at night is because I've been procrastinating for the majority of today and didn't have the willpower to do it. So now we're here at 9 minutes past 9 in the evening, and I just have to hope that this is fine. This is fine. Everything is fine. Focus. Focus. I have a migraine. I don't want to focus. That was a bit far. Didn't mean to pull it down that far. Okay. Focus. We got this. We got this. I am a singular person. I got this. Okay. Pull it together. Okay, I'm not... I feel like, you know, when you're like sat in maths class or something and you're like trying really hard not to laugh, but like you and all your friends like just really want to laugh. That's what it feels like. Hey everyone, so it's Hearth and welcome back to my channel. Hey everyone. Hey everyone, so it's Hearth. Nope. Hey everyone. Hey everyone. Hey everyone, so it's Hearth and welcome back to my channel. Nope. Hey everyone, so it's Hearth. Nope. Hey everyone, so it's tiny hands. Nope. You would think that after like 4 years on YouTube I wouldn't have to redo an intro 8 to 12 times, and yet here we are, take 9, and I'm still failing at this. This time it is to Buzzfeed Unsolved's video. We joined I forgot what the name of it was. Well, this is going great. We joined a witch coven. 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 I have to remember this. It's just the intro. This time it is to Buzzfeed Unsolved. We spent a day in a witch's, what is it? Oh, bleh. I've already f***ed it up. That took me like all of 2 minutes. The one thing I've discovered, right? If you think you look fine in person, on camera you will look weird. If you think you look weird on camera, in person you will look fine. Wait, that's the same thing. What I meant was if you look fine on camera, you'll probably look weird in real life. But if you look fine in real life, you'll look weird on camera. I thought this jumper would be a great idea, and it is. It's tremendously comfortable, it's tremendously warm, it's great for being outside in -2 degrees. However, when you are surrounded by filming light, it's so warm. It's so warm, and I can just tell that my chest is going to go red because it always does. When I get warm, because I'm so pale, my chest just goes bright red, and this jumper just makes it worse.